Hi, we're back. This is episode 4 of the Mad Genius podcast. I think I might I'd like to say, you know, Steve and I aren't into Mensa or anything. It was actually Steve's son, who is, how old?
He's 7.
7, who came up with that idea for a name, and I like it, but yeah, just for the record, we don't think that we're geniuses necessarily, we both have our own unique set of skills and talents, but you've got to call it something, really. So. And I thought that was really cute that Steve's son came up with that name.
I actually like the name because to me it was kind of like a combination of the creativity and the logical aspects, which I think are both required to develop a good product. You need that madness, which I'm relating to the creativity, and probably very politically incorrect, but that's just the way it is. Coming up with lots of ideas, that those creative energies and artistic energies to come up with that. The genius side of things, kind of maybe the more cerebral thinking about things, and applying some of the ideas we've discussed. I thought maybe Mad Genius did have some vague relationship to that. Type 2.
I essentially completely disagree with what you just said, but we won't go into that. I don't think that being an artist is associated with being in any way psychologically unstable. Unless you've been pursuing it for years and failing to make any money, and then it can cause people to go a little wacky. Look, there is no doubt that a lot of the greatest creative minds historically have been looked at by psychologists of today, and sort of posthumously diagnosed as probably having bipolar. Having bipolar doesn't mean you're mad. No. It's just a generic word. No, you don't have bipolar. Well, if you've got bipolar, it's very slow swing.
It's very slow swing.
Yeah. Anyway, and I certainly think that you can be a genius without having a scientific mind. However, yes, what we are trying to do is a combination of use creative, innovative
thinking.
Yes, thank you. And at the same time, be rational.
Have a scientific
and at the same time be rational and realistic about it, and do market research and all that kind of stuff, so that we don't just wind up putting all our hopes into something that that we could have easily just gone online and found out that essentially that there was no market for. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be continuing our discussion about evaluation criteria. So last time we talked about value versus uniqueness, which we came across from Guy Kawasaki. Today we're going to be talking about what you see in design thinking often, which is this desirability, viability, and feasibility approach, which I've put on the board there. So the thinking is.
God, my head's in the way.
We'll work through them. So desirability, the idea is that people actually want it. So you could argue it's very related to value. So there's a customer. Viability means it's not just a good idea, but it's actually possible from a business perspective. People are willing to pay for it. It makes sense on a spreadsheet in terms of that if you did this, you could actually make money from doing it. And then feasibility, in its pure sense, is about is it technically possible? You could think to yourself, I'd really like a mobile phone that is so small it would fit in my ear and project a hologram in front of my eye. But it's just not technically possible with with current technology. So, in its pure sense, that feasibility is about is it technically possible, or are you expecting things that defy the laws of physics or are beyond what's possible currently, which is easy to do.
Certainly, I think, I mean, I think eliminating, defying the laws of physics, anything that defies the laws of physics, like straight off the bat. But also feasibility has to be about, can we make it or get someone to make it for us at relatively low cost, so some things are just going to be too, would just be too complicated, like too many parts, too much assembly required, that sort of thing,
But do you think that's viability or feasibility?
Well, I think that's a little bit of both. A little bit of both. I mean, I would have thought the viability was more like had more to do with market, like consumer demand. But you're the one who knows this matrix.
I mean, it's a framework. It's
Framework.
It's
just a Venn diagram.
It's just a model of reality, and you can interpret it. But the initial thinking is that feasibility is like, is it possible? Is it possible? Because you can come up with ideas that are just not possible. Like, I want architects are classics at this often. They design a building and they take it to the engineers and go, hang on, this is not. We just can't do this.
Absolutely.
The materials just don't allow it as a possibility. So the feasibility was, can you actually pull it off? Not, do you have the capability to pull it off?
Yes. Well,
NASA could do it, but we can't. No, that's more about viability.
Right. Okay.
From
right.
their perspective.
Enough. Fair enough. Well, okay.
But as I said, it's just a framework. But to me, it overlaps quite a lot with value and uniqueness.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that like these different criteria, like these different matrices for defining criteria are, I was just saying to Steve before we started recording that I feel very strongly that like we're going to need some criterion that we use which can produce is quantifiable in some way, because although otherwise we're running on our gut. Otherwise we're running on our gut.
Steve Jobs
because well, he did, but he was also kind of in the right place at the right time. I will hand it to Steve Jobs. The iPod and the iPhone were absolute revolutions
they also weren't his first product.
They also weren't his first product.
It was building on successes, and
Yeah, well, he was fired from Apple like after they released the Macintosh 2, and then like they brought him back, and then and then he apparently the story goes that one day he saw his daughter with her Walkman, and because MP3 compression technology had recently come about and Napster was around and things. I don't know whether. But I don't know whether Steve Jobs was specifically using Napster, but certainly digitization of songs was starting to become a thing, and so Steve Jobs just looked at this Walkman or Discman or whatever it was and thought, God, well, I can put 1,000 songs in your pocket. And that's what he said to his daughter, like ahead of the announcement of the original iPod. I am not a fan of Apple devices. The only Apple devices I've ever owned were iPods. Yeah, but I owned an Apple iPod ahead of owning competitor ones because they were just better.
Yeah, but no doubt about the quality of the product that they produce. Okay, so we talked about how the two frameworks we've come up with so far are related. We've got some other things we talked about. So one of them is just keeping it simple, especially when we're starting out.
Yeah. Look, keep it simple, stupid. Like this is like what I remember my very first day in computer science class in year 11 at high school. The two 4-letter acronyms were thrown at us, and we were told that these would be the most important, the two most important things that we would learn from the class, other than switch it off and switch it back on again. One was keep it simple, stupid, and the other one was garbage in, garbage out. You know, simplicity, simple things. Simple things are just, generally speaking, preferable. You know, like...
Yeah, but there's a difference between simple interface, complexity underneath.
Yes, sure.
An iPhone is incredibly complex inside, but it's just like swipe the screen and push the button and see the video.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I see what you mean. Like, however, I mean, I feel like for what we are going to do, we initially at least want to be working with fairly simple ideas.
But that's great. Because that aligns with the lean startup approach.
Yeah.
So Eric Ries, he took, I think it was Eric himself. It might have been Steve Blank who came up with this idea of minimum viable product. It's like, think of the simplest version of what you're thinking of, and test the market with that, and find a buyer for that before you start layering on more and more complexity to it. Even if that complexity is hidden, if it's going to be complex to manufacture or produce, keep that out of it for as long as you can while you're building up more and more knowledge. So you make sure that when you're investing into it, you're investing behind a winning horse rather than something that you just think might be good.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I would definitely agree.
So so that's a lean startup idea. What I was talking about to Belinda before, though, was even simple things are complicated. It's like, if you think about the
certainly there's a lot that goes into, it's
like, let's talk about that beach shovel idea. That might be a single piece item manufactured in a factory that we find somewhere. It might be
China.
It's probably China, because that's the manufacturing hub of the world.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
In terms of that actual item, it seems like such a simple idea, but designing it, it's going to involve 3D modeling, probably 3D printing for prototypes. We're going to need to think about, packaging. How heavy is this thing for transport?
Yeah, for shipping.
All the graphic design for the actual package.
Not to mention just the actual design of the item itself, because obviously it needs to be aesthetically, but it also pleasing, but it also needs to be comfortable to use. I mean, if you're going to shovel, I mean, I haven't done that much shoveling in my life, but when I have, blisters central afterwards, so you don't want it, you want it to be as pleasant to use as possible, while still providing the functionality.
So doing that is hours, days, well, it's probably months of work just doing that one thing. Once you've actually choosing colours. Making sure that the colours that's actually produced are what you thought. Once it's actually made and packaged, you've got 10,000 of these items that you've got in a factory somewhere in China or elsewhere. I've actually got an uncle who owns one of the biggest plastic injection companies in New Zealand. But anyway, we're not making it from plastic.
Is that right? No, we're not making it from
plastic. The point is you've got 10,000 of these things. Where is it going to be stored? Who's
absolutely.
got a shed? I can't fit that in my garage. We've got 10,000 of these things. Where are they going to be? How are we going to get them to the customer? How are you going to sell them to people? Oh, don't we need to set up a web, a
web store,
a Shopify store. We need a merchant account. Okay, well, we need a merchant account now. So that people can pay with their Visa card or the Amex or whatever. I've got to set one of those up. Even a small idea to take through to completion is a massive. It's like, even if the simplest idea you can think of for a product, taking it from just an idea to actually market it to the world is just massively complicated.
Yeah, massively, and that's assumed that's without trying to get a patent or some sort of like
Exactly.
you know on
You
the
could
intellectual
spend a
property,
year
you
or
know?
2 years just patenting it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think that we, you know, because like that, I've been involved in the patenting process before, and it's a nightmare.
Exactly.
And
So
I don't mind lawyers. I've got a couple of friends who are lawyers, but like I don't want to give lawyers money for, you know, like especially when we're essentially doing. Well, I mean, no, I say ripping off someone else's design, but you know, I mean, how are we going to design the shovel? Well, we're going to go to Bunnings, which is our local hardware store, and we're going to look at all the shovels, and we're going to look at the premium shovels, you know.
I'm going to look at all of the shovels online, and I want this to look like a kid thing. I want to make sure that my wife thinks that looks cool. There's all kinds of stuff. Anyway, one thing that I will be applying, so it may well be that that we choose an idea. It might be the aerodynamic sunshade. I don't know. We'll get to that. But we build it, we manufacture it, and it doesn't sell very well. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that I do think is a good idea is to invest in the things that we will reuse. So many of those things that I talked about before. To get the beach shovel to the market, you'd have to do for anything. It's like organising a distribution partner.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't matter what you do, you need that. That's the kind of thing that's worth spending a bit of extra time and a bit of relationship building, because then as soon as you've got your new widget, you can pass it through that same channel. It's the same with the web store. It doesn't matter what we have, we're going to need to take it to market. Whatever we sell, you probably want to sell it on Amazon or through eBay or something. Yeah. So setting up the mechanism so that it can be distributed to those things automatically. The credit card, you know, it no matter what we were to sell, you're going to need the credit card. So those kind of things, you want to get, in my view, you want to get a minimum viable product. You need to be able to charge people. But don't worry if it's 4% or 2% too much on day one in terms of the fee that you're paying to the bank. I mean, spend half an hour and choose the one that seems better, but don't spend a week or a month analysing the best possible credit card vendor when you don't even have a product to sell yet. You can go back to that in the next iteration. Yeah. You can say, have you noticed, Bell? We're paying Stripe or whoever $1,000 a month for this for the thing. I reckon we could probably get that cheaper. Okay, well, you're making $1,000 a month now. You have the opportunity to save some money.
Yeah, to go back and revise.
Then spend some time on it, but don't hold up the whole process.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, no. Initially, we want to have like reliable graphic designers that we work with. We want to have reliable manufacturers that we work with, and we want to have we want to have a reliable shipper. So, and because shipping is like that's going to be one of our biggest things. One of the biggest costs. Yeah, and I mean, look, it's really hard, you know, in today's market. You know, like when you've got Amazon who offers free shipping, or maybe that's just because I've got a Prime subscription. But it's not much, is it? No. I think even if you're not, you're contending with companies, and so people have come to almost expect shipping to be free. If shipping's not free, they certainly don't want to have to pay.
Well, somebody's paying. You know, who's paying?
Well, I mean, it's either built into the price of the product.
Always, yeah.
But I'm actually kind of in favour of transparency, although with certain items, obviously, if the shipping cost is ridiculous, I think that we can just build it into the cost of the product and then tell people that the reason for the high price is a very high shipping cost. But
that's a fascinating question, because absolutely I agree on transparency.
But a lot of people have said. But a lot of people you're
going to put so many people off. It's like, let's say we make the barbecue tongs and we sell them for $59.95 and then $40 delivery.
Yeah, sure.
people are going to have $40 delivery. I'm not. But if you say $99 free delivery globally, or free delivery, people just go, oh yeah. It's like a lot of people just want to know. I like it. I want it. What's the bottom line? $99 done.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, because and that's fair enough actually, because there is nothing worse than when you're on some online shopping site and you go to checkout and like you've got to wait until you get all the way to the end of the checkout process before it tells you how much you're going to have to pay in shipping. And I mean, and like how many times have I like at that point just no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like so I mean I think like we do.
So there's a marketing crafting aspect. Pricing is a whole thing unto itself. But certainly small products. I don't know. The Chinese seem to have it sussed with sending things like toothpicks and whatever globally for like $3 on eBay with free shipping. It's like how the hell do they do that?
Well, I mean, because a toothpick doesn't take up much space.
Yeah, but the mailing costs, if I went down to the local post office, there's no way that I'm going to be able to get them to post anything anywhere for $2. No,
well, this is true.
It's not a piece of paper.
Yeah, well, this is true, yeah.
Okay, we also talked, when we talk about, so we've been talking about shipping costs, also the absolute cost is not as important as the ratio of the overall cost.
Right. Yeah. So. No, I don't know what you know. I don't know what you mean.
Okay.
By that.
Well, what I'm saying is, $60 shipping might be outrageous if you're buying a hairbrush or a.
Well, it would be outrageous if you were buying
a lipstick.
Yeah.
But if you're buying a barbecue. Or a car, or a plasma TV or a laptop or something. $60 is actually reasonable
because relative to the overall cost of the item.
Yeah. So what that means is that there's probably some optimal density actually. Value density. It's like how big is it versus how much it costs to ship. So this is $1,000 phone, as they all are these days.
You spent $1,000 on that phone?
I didn't pay quite that much. No. Okay, $500.
That's more like it.
The point is, it's $500, but to ship that anywhere in the world would probably cost $30 or $50. So that's only 10% of the cost.
Depending on how fast you wanted to send it or whatever. But yeah.
Whereas this morning one of the ideas we were talking about was a at-home ball pit. So like at IKEA where you can throw the kids into the ball pit, a bit like they do in The Simpsons.
I didn't know that was on The Simpsons.
It'd be great if, you see Maggie thrown into the...
Oh, look, I've seen a lot of the episodes of The Simpsons, but there's a lot to watch.
The point is, if we had those little plastic balls, to any reasonable sized ball pit would need to be probably...
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, you need shipping those balls is going to be very expensive
because of the volume. It might not be too heavy, although it'll probably add up.
Yeah.
But the volume is just blows it out. So it might be $1,000 to ship. $10 worth of plastic balls.
It's a shame though, because that was a good idea.
Yeah. The point is that you do need to think about these things. I have a friend who owns a large online shoe store, and he talks all the time about shipping being just a critical aspect.
Yeah.
Shipping costs as being a critical aspect of making it viable.
I think especially people in Australia who are making their products here, but selling them globally. Like it is so expensive. I mean, you only have to look on a globe or a map to see that Australia's not exactly handy to many places. So of course, it's a long way, and so you're going to have to send it by plane or sea mail, but no one wants to use sea mail because it just takes so long. But and that is just expensive. It doesn't matter who you it doesn't matter which company you use, whether it's a courier or whether it's like our local post mob it's very expensive. And and generally speaking, the bigger the item, the heavier the item, the more expensive it is.
So important criteria that we'll be looking at. The next one is scalability. So what this is the idea that if your sales increase by 10 times, if you sell 10, there's a certain level of effort. If you sell 100, there's a certain level of effort. 1,000, 10,000, up to 1 million or whatever. How much harder is it to satisfy the need? So the anti-case or the what do you call it, the anti-pattern, the bad example we were discussing before was hand painted pots for plants.
Right. Yeah. Ceramic
It's
pots,
like,
yeah.
or I think we were talking about didgeridoos.
Oh yeah, I also touted the idea of like didgeridoos painted by authentic Australian artists, because I know that there is a market for that. But shipping wise, and then also we'd have to have 1,000. If it took off, then we'd need literally like 1,000 artists working on them, like for us, and like
full time. It's like you can't paint anything else. You've got to paint how didgeridoos.
I know, and then we'd be running a sweatshop of Aboriginals, and that would just be horrible.
Exactly. It's actually, it's probably a very, very. The business probably already exists. It's probably a very, very viable business, but it's just very different business. It's like you only want to send. Limited edition. We only sell 10 of these a year. But each one is $10,000 shipped anywhere in the world for free. Maybe that's something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. For a premium artist, premium material, premium everything. Yeah, there's always a market for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Very different idea. If you want to investigate that idea further, I've got a friend who owns one of the large Aboriginal art galleries in Fremantle.
Oh really? Well, which one? What's it called?
I don't know.
Oh right.
But
I recently bought a painting from an Aboriginal art gallery in Fremantle. I don't know that it was the largest.
So
one.
he's it's one of the largest in Fremantle.
One
of the largest in a very small town.
There are quite a few in Fremantle, and in Perth City itself, there's only one, and I suspect that it's not authentic. So Fremantle seems to be where it's at for Aboriginal art.
You never know. It might be a great idea, but it's just a very different idea to selling into eBay selling on the internet. Very interesting idea.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit more niche, like, it's one that I'll continue to think about on my own. Although, I mean, just to buy an unpainted didgeridoo, I mean, they're about $700 or $800. So you're looking at a pretty hefty investment, and that's before it's been painted. Now, I mean, maybe you can sell it probably for like $5,000, especially if you've got a pretty renowned Aboriginal artist painting it for you. But you've got to pay your artist, obviously, and then you should, and you've got to ship. Oh well, I mean, we're not in the business of slave labor.
No.
Oh my goodness! Like, of course they're gonna get paid. But anyway, but no, that's probably more like a cottage business, cottage industry.
You never know. The market might think that's great. You might end up. You just never know how these things can go, which is why you need to test the market.
Yeah.
See how it goes, and then follow the ideas that have got some traction. Okay, next criteria. We've got about 5 minutes left, I think, so we can probably just cover off a couple of things. So. Criteria around safety and liability. So plug-in electricals.
Yeah. Sorry. As soon as I hear the word safety, I'm just like...
We don't want to sell things for $25 on the internet and then
get of course, absolutely. Not to mention the fact that we don't want to do anything that's plug-in. First of all, because you need... okay, look...
USB plug.
First of all, don't tempt me to sing that song. But secondly, like we don't want to have to deal with different plugs for all around the world. I don't think, realistically.
Early on, especially.
And then also, that would, then I think we would have to have some sort of testing of our products to make sure that they, that they were electrically sound, that they were this wiring in them was sound and all that sort of stuff, and
slow voltage I think be acceptable, but if it's 240 volts or 115 volts,
I think something with batteries might be okay, but I really don't like the idea of anything that has to plug in.
How about USB 5 volt?
USB. I think USB is okay.
I think USB might be okay, because then it's not our charger.
Yeah, or HDMI for that matter.
As long as the wire works.
Yeah.
Minimal moving parts.
Yeah, I think we don't want things to be too complicated, because like if you've ever bought a cheap Rubik's Cube, this is the second time in this podcast I think that I've talked about Rubik's Cubes. Like if you've ever bought a cheap one, like, rather than a genuine Rubik's brand Rubik's Cube, like you're cranking them and they don't really work properly, and they're, and all this stuff, and they fall out, pieces fall out and stuff, like just the more parts it has, the more, and especially if they're moving parts, and the moving of those parts is fundamental to the value of the item. I think it starts to complicate matters. So I think we want to, ideally want to just have things that are just literally like plug and play, or even don't plug and play, just play.
The idea of small parts as well.
Yeah, small parts, choking hazards for children. Like, we intend for our operation to be very family friendly, not just by virtue of like the products that we're selling, but just our sort of our business ethos in general. Like, we, that's not to say that, like, we want to exclude people that don't have children. I mean, I don't have children, like, from our potential market. However, like, we definitely want to keep things very sort of. We definitely want to be aware of the problem, the problem that can crop up with because not just children but pets as well. Like, enthusiastic pets will eat small pieces of Lego and stuff. Mind you, they seem to handle it okay.
And the last thing I've got here on my notes about safety and liability is products that require licensing or testing to even start selling. So we talk about medical devices.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there's loopholes around that. But as I just said before, I don't know that we want to at this stage be thinking about things that we're going to need a lawyer for, because that's going to rack up the costs awfully quickly. I think testing is not as much of a problem. However, once again, it will be different in every country, as will licensing. And so these are just complicating factors that that are just going to make it slower to get your product out to consumers, and also I guess like I would say that reduces the feasibility of the.
For example, I think it's really in this testing area. I think a really interesting one is like sunscreen. Again, another Australian example.
Yeah,
versus cosmetics. Like, if you manufacture cosmetics and then if you make them in your home, in your back garden, or if you bring them in from China or from Southeast Asia or somewhere or anywhere in the world, you don't need to test them before you start selling them to the consumer.
You don't need to test them.
You do have a legal requirement to sell safe things. You can't, this is full of lead. No, you're not allowed to do that. Occasionally, a company gets picked up for doing this, but the point is it's the onus is on the company to do the right thing. Not, you can't start selling this before you've paid $1,000 or $10,000 to the government test lab.
That's right.
You need a license. Anything that's in that area, medical devices, or requires testing or accreditation before you can even sell it.
Yeah.
I think we should keep away from just because in the early stages, minimum viable product. Later on down the track, we might say, oh, it'd be really good if this, we've been selling 10,000 of these, but our customers keep saying, why does it use USB? We really want it to heat up faster by plugging it into the wall. Okay, well, you've developed your market. You might at that point say, well, I'm going to invest in these things, but not
absolutely
not at the start.
But not at the start when we're literally lean on capital.
Exactly. Right, so that's licenses. The only other criteria I've got down are collectibles. If there's anything that was in the
everything's collectible, Steve.
Everything, yeah, but things that are designed to be collectible, like
Lego.
But
you see, I think in today's day and age, things that are designed to be collectible will almost always fail. Things that wind up being collectible are things that nobody expects, that they just come from left field, and that's what's so interesting about collectibles, is that who would have thought that people would be interested in remember, you guys wouldn't remember probably because there was a big craze on Beanie Babies, these $5.99, I think they were little plush toy things, but they had beans in them, but they were made by a toy manufacturer named Ty. He'd never made a toy before in his life. He never made a toy afterwards, as far as I know. But these things went insane, and he very cleverly did some very clever marketing. Anyway, people were selling them on eBay, like the rare ones they were collecting them and reselling them on eBay for thousands of dollars. And then of course eventually
it's true, you can collect anything. I've got a friend who collects tins of tuna, wants all different types of tins of tuna. It's like, well, okay, you can collect anything.
Is he a doomsday prepper?
Now I'm thinking more about things that were buy the whole set kind of ideas.
Yes, right.
Or I have the barbecue tongs, but I also want the, barbecue scraper, I don't know, something. The point is...
Okay, right, yeah.
Actually, that's not a very good example. That's more of a related product idea, but, some things are collectible. Some ceramics and things. Buy the whole set kind of ideas. It's the point is that if you manage to get a product success, then it's easy to extend it and say, oh, we're also going to do this and this, and people who've got the one say, oh, I collect those, or I want the matching pair, or these kind of things. And then the final one, which I started to get onto, there was related product niches. Example I was talking about before. I'm going to advise everybody who's watching to buy stainless steel clothes pegs.
Yeah, those are the ones I've got, and they were very, very expensive, but they're so worth it.
There's wooden clothes pegs, there's plastic clothes pegs. The wooden ones rot quite often.
Plastic ones
the plastic ones in Australia
disintegrate.
Exactly, they just fall apart. Stainless steel ones, they don't cost that much. They're $10 or something. But
I think they're like $10.
They're a lot more expensive than
they're a lot more expensive than your average clothes pegs.
But you buy them once, and they last you the rest of your life. And they just work.
Yeah, presumably, absolutely, yeah.
The reason I bring up those stainless steel clothes pegs is, first, buy them, because they're really good, and second of all, because how would you extend that? What do you sell next? A clothes line? It just doesn't really make sense. It's not very extensible. If you go into the effort of developing a product in a market, it's really good if then you can say, okay, well, we've got this level of success, but we want to also extend the product into other related things, or that appeal to the same related group, because you've already got people on the mailing list or other things. So I think that's an interesting criteria. Yeah,
it is an interesting one, but I don't think it should be too cut and dry about it, because if the idea is good enough, I don't think it matters that it's a standalone.
That's really important.
If the idea is solid enough, but the product is a standalone with no obvious partner item, or like, collect the set, as you're saying. I don't think that should be ruled out on that criteria, because if it's a good if it's a good product and people want it, well, like that, plenty of people have made a lot of money just with one idea that they sold. That they took to market. Like plenty of people have made a lot of money.
The clothes peg idea is an interesting one. The problem with those clothes pegs is that they entangle themselves in the trough. So you put 100 of them in, and they all interlock. So when you pick out one, you get like 3, and then you have to.
Oh, not the ones I've got.
Okay, right. Well, that was one unique idea I had. I'll have to have a look at the ones you've got. But the point is, if you could make the very best clothes peg in the world and give it a lifetime guarantee, say ever breaks, mail it back, and we'll send you a new one. You'd probably be able to sell them for $20 a pack, but it's like lifetime pegs. That could be the brand name, lifetime pegs. But and then patent the design so that nobody could copy the exact design, play with it. But that might be the idea. Just one thing.
Yeah. I don't think that will be the idea, but it makes a point. It makes the point. Like I was saying before about 3M and how they just made. They made this glue that, enabled them to make sticky notes. And, that was the start of what is now 3M are crazy huge.
They're
all just because they make a certain type of glue, and then they had the idea to make a sticky note.
So maybe in a future podcast at some point, not the next one, but we might talk about how these different criteria that we're discussing, kind of the prioritization, what's the most important, what's the least important. Ultimately, whatever we come up with, we'll share with everybody who's on the channel as to what criteria we use, because the hope is that other people might say, I want to run a business, I want to start a business. I'm somewhat inspired by what Stephen Bell had managed to pull off, and hopefully you can leverage what we've thought through and build. As a baseline for what you want.
Well, hopefully it works, and then all the rest.
Exactly. Okay, right. So we'll wrap it up there.
Yes.
Thanks for listening. It's podcast 4 completed now, and we'll talk to you next time. We'll start that selection process of trying to whittle down the ideas down to 1 to 3 that we think we want to pursue these a bit deeper. And start looking at the aspects of desirability, viability, feasibility, value, all those things, and then we can start spending some time and doing some research on the different aspects of it.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Right.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
All right. Over and out. Peace.
See ya.